Hey, and welcome back to Mastering Workplace Performance Online. This lesson is all about you and your social network. And I'm not talking about Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. What I'm talking about is, who are you surrounded by? Who are those people that you turn to for ideas, for advice? At the end of a long day, who do you share what happened with? And who do you call when you've had a big day? Or who do you call when you need a little bit of help getting out of a low day? And that social network, one of the things that I'll encourage you to consider doing is pulling out a piece of paper, and in the middle of that piece of paper, put your name, initials, first name, last name, nickname, and then around that, in kind of a radiant graphic right there, just put lines, and then on the outside of each one of those lines, the names of the people that you turn to the most. You'll see in the PDF download for this particular lesson, I'll give you 3 inventories to consider. I'll talk about those towards the end of this video. Now, when you think about your social network, I kind of think about where I've come to from where I was. And those of you who know a little bit about my story, I started teaching high school in 1995. I started leading seminars in 1997. I joined a seminar coaching firm in the year 2000. Jody and I started our own company in 2007. And I look back and I can bring to mind very specific people along the way who, at one point or another, they would come in, they would give me an idea, they would share something with me, they would offer me feedback. And I think that's really the most important thing, is getting people to give me real fact-based, observable feedback. And I don't know how this always works for you, but I know for me, reaching out on a continual basis, breaking bread with people. If you follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, you know that I host these things called Coffee Chat, and I do this around the world. And what I do is I just invite people to show up. And the idea of a coffee chat is, we sit down and you order a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a latte or whatever you would have earlier in the morning, and for about an hour we get to talk about, ideally, things that we haven't talked about yet as a group. Now, what's neat about doing this around the world is I'll tend to bring people together who don't yet know each other. So pretty much whenever we're talking, there's something that someone says that they didn't know about somebody else. And that's a really neat way to build a community. I want to draw your attention to a couple of books that have stood out in my experience as far as this whole building of my social network, of collaborating, of working together and growing together. And the first one that I want to talk about is the title of this is The Collaboration Challenge. Now, when you see this book on the bookshelf or on the internet, the first thing that I noticed about it is that it really called out attention toward working between businesses and non-for-profits. And we do work for both. One seminar a month, we do pro bono for companies doing good work, organizations doing good work. For a few years now, I've donated one seminar every year to my stepmom's breast cancer council up in Marin County. And that's a way, again, of sharing what we know with the group, but also of bringing people together. There's one line that I want to bring to your awareness from this book here, and I'm just going to read this word for word so that there's little interpretation from me and you can do the interpretation for yourself. It says, "One key guideline on portfolio size is clear. Overcommitting and underperforming is a sure way to cause partner disillusionment and disengagement." Now, it might be interesting to stop, look around, maybe make a list, maybe pull out a piece of paper and do a mind sweep and write down as many things as you can that you've said yes to recently that other people are waiting for you to get back from them, back to them. Collaborating, sharing work. What is it you're doing that is in partnership with someone else? Where have I committed and where am I performing? If you have time, please stay for the second half of this video. That's where I dive a little bit deeper in. I'll give you one more book title. But for now, here's the activity for this lesson. I'm going to ask you to make 3 inventories of 10 people each. Inventory number 1, make a list of your coaches, your advisors, your mentors. List number 2, 10 people that you spend the most time with at work and in life. Inventory number 3, people that you've not yet met face to face, but influence you through their writing, through their acting, through their community involvement. Make those 3 inventories and then ask yourself, how can I use that social network to move forward, move further, and move faster? So that's the deal. In 5 minutes, I like to give the executive summary for each lesson. If you have some more time, give me 8, 9, 10 more minutes. I'll dive in a little bit more, tell you a couple of stories, and perhaps drop in a couple of actions or activities that you could try. I've already given you a couple to think about. Number 1 is to make that influence mind map, right? Put your name in the middle of a page, go around your name with little lines, and then spiral around there. Who influences you? I remember reading a book years ago called The Multiple Streams of Income by a guy named Robert Allen, and I had this image in my head that you know, I would have this multiple streams where I'd look up at a mountain and I would see all the streams coming down, and each one would be a different kind of income. And then I started thinking about this more and more, and what I realized was, instead of thinking about the streams coming down, if I were standing on top of the mountain and I were watching these streams start, I'd see one go over there, and I'd see one go over there, and I'd see one go over there. But I always wondered, what sits at the top? Well, if I think about my multiple streams of influence, I think about the people who influence me. What is it that I have to do at the top so that I can go down this stream and there's that person down there who influences me, and then down this stream and there's that person down there who influences me. So it's this concept that we are moving day to day, job to job, career to career, city to city, and every move we make, there's usually someone or a team of people right there. Just a couple weeks ago, I was presenting at a university down in Southern California. I was talking to the MBA class, and one of the things that we talked about was this influence of a mentor or a teacher or a coach. And at 20, 21, 22 years old, I had the audience, there were about 70 people in the class, and what I did is I asked the audience to bring to mind someone, a teacher, a coach, an advisor, a mentor, someone who had influenced them, and they could look back and bring their name to mind right away. And it was fascinating, because when I asked the students to do this, and then I said, how many of you had someone's name come to mind? Almost all the hands went up. I didn't count, but I looked out and I saw a whole room. And by the way, with the hand, many of those students, it came with a smile. See, there's this idea that we move together. When I was out at the GE Learning Center in New York, one of the things that I remember hearing over and over again was this saying, if you want to move fast, go alone. If you want to move far, go together. And so who can I go together with? How can I go out and find some people, meet some people, or tap into the people that I already know? I promise I'd give you another book, and here's the one that has been really top of mind for me lately. I got to meet Keith for lunch in New York a couple weeks ago. We've done a couple of things together. I did a presentation for his online university. So much like you're here for Mastering Workplace Performance, the Keith Ferrazzi Institute has a whole online course, an online class, and I got to do a short presentation for that. And here's a line from Never Eat Alone that is very appropriate for this discussion about network and building your social network and hanging out with people who are going to move you, who are going to go with you, who are willing to see you get big. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Here's the line. What will set you apart from everybody else is the relentlessness you bring to learning and presenting and selling your content. Now, no matter what we do, when we show up, there we are, right? We have us. We have what happened to us recently. We have what has influenced us over our life. We have our goals and our objectives. And when we sit down with people, there's a piece of advice that I got from a mentor of mine many years ago who said, Jason, spend, if you can, as much or more time being interested than being interesting. And I will share with you that being a presenter and a coach and being on stage many times, it's a challenge, you know, because part of what I do is to get people to get interested in what I've studied and what I've written about and what I know. So the idea that I need to be interesting, right? I need to be able to bring things to the table that will help them. But I also know that it's absolutely critical that I be interested, that I can sit down and ask a question. And I think that was what was so exciting for me about the conversation that I had with Dan Pink, that hopefully you've downloaded or watched that video on YouTube, that when we got to talk for those 15 minutes, I was working to be interested and trying to dig into the roots of motivation and influence and drive, the title of his book. I promised you I'd come back to a topic, and that is this one. There's probably a lot of ways to say this. It's been very big in my own career, and that's the question, how big will the people around you let you get? And I know it's not a safe question. It's really not a, how do you say, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit off. It's a little bit uncomfortable, because the last thing I want to do is sit down with a mentor of mine and ask her or him, hey, are you going to let me get big? You know, but we really need to step back and ask ourselves that question. And speaking from experience, you know, I've worked with people, I've had advisors and coaches and mentors and teachers, and what I realized was that as I was growing, there was what seemed to me a subjective uncomfort level with how big I was getting. And so what I want you to do is to take a look back at that sheet that you made, where your name is in the middle and the names of the people are around that piece of paper. And instead of worrying about, you know, who might be offended if you get too big, or who might get weird if you get too successful, instead of focusing on who might go that way, instead pick two people who you know absolutely, categorically, without doubt, are willing to see you get huge, willing to see you move forward, fast, far, and really in the direction that is you. You know, when I step back and I think about the potential that lies, the potential of opportunity out there, it really is, to me, it's amazing. It's stunning. You know, you start surfing the web, or you watch news at one night, or you open up the newspaper. There's so many things I could get involved in. There's so many people that I could meet. Now, I want to talk about one more little topic. I've got a few more minutes here, and that's another semi-uncomfortable topic. But my thinking is, why don't we address the uncomfortable topics so that when we get there, we're prepared for them? There's another kind of outside the box idea that the people who you reach out to for the first time, whether that's a warm introduction, someone introduces you, whether it's a hot introduction where you're sitting next to each other in a seminar and the presenter says, introduce yourself to each other, or whether it's cold. You know, I write one card a day. You know that about me. I do one handwritten card every day. It's a thank you card, a gratitude card, a hello card, a congratulations card. And in a month, I'll probably send anywhere from 10 to 15 of those cards to people that I've not yet met. You know, if I'm reading an article in the newspaper about someone who's being recognized in their community for something big, even here in Ojai, it's a small town of 8,000 people, I'll still reach out. I'll send a congratulations card to them. I don't know them yet. Now, I'm not expecting a note in return. That's that expectation anticipation line that we're going to talk about in another lesson. But what I'm looking for is, if I reach out to someone who I've never met before in one of these ways, whether it's via LinkedIn, a direct email, or some kind of a reach out to them, what is the response that I get? I'll tell you, most of the time, it's zero. And I've just made that okay. I'm going to send a letter to someone. I'm going to send a note to someone. I remember I was in Washington, D.C. last fall, and I went to a seminar that was a day and a half long. There were 15 speakers. When I got back to the hotel that stay, I actually wrote 15 one-page letters. And each person got their own individual letter. And I did a sharing. I said, you know, I attended your presentation. Here's what I learned. Here's what I thought. Here's what I got from that. And of 15 handwritten letters that were highly individualized that I sent out to these people saying thank you, and here's what I gained, and here's what I learned, I got zero response back. And you'll notice I'm saying that with a smile because it wasn't about the response. For me, it was a arbiter. It was kind of a measurement, because in the past several years, I've been doing this for about 15 years now, when someone does reach back in, I automatically feel they're my people. They get me. So if I could say one thing to end this little video, when you think about your social network, the people who are going to get you the furthest, the fastest, to get you to be your best, it's going to be the people who get you. So go out, invite them to coffee, invite them to lunch, write them a letter, see if you can spend some time with them, and please let us know how it goes.